Let's talk about Blake Lively here for a second, because this thing is coming down any second now. We are awaiting Judge Liman's final ruling on Blake Lively's last straw. I re-examined her case, okay, on how it went from 15 claims to 13 claims to 3 claims to 0. The April 2nd opinion and order from the judge was brutal. It was terrible for her. It was and long, 152 pages. And this is where he threw out all the sexual harassment stuff. He began by summarizing, okay? And let's do that for our sake, for those who don't follow every little detail. The film, It Ends With Us, with Justin and Blake, premiered in New York on August 6th, 2024, the big red carpet. And then the film actually hit theaters on August 9th. In the run-up to the premiere and after Blake and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, had unfollowed Baldoni on social media, Wayfair Studios and Justin worked with their public relations consultant, Jennifer Abel, to engage crisis communications specialists. That's Melissa Nathan and Jed Wallace. Okay? What happened next is very hotly disputed and will be described below, says the judge. In short, Blake claims that Wayfair, Baldoni, and their consultants engaged in a campaign to injure her reputation in retaliation for her claims of a hostile work environment. Well, Ms. Lively, there's nothing more hostile in 2024 than a social media unfollow. And then getting other people in the cast to unfollow. And then demanding that Justin Baldoni and his family and friends and everybody he brought to see his incredible, career highlight directing this movie, sticking all of them in the basement, like making Sony Pictures, the studios, get rid of him so he's not sharing the limelight with her, literally in the basement, watching his own movie. It's crazy. Well, then Judge Liman explained that many of the sexual harassment incidents that Blake described were, he said, isolated, ambiguous, not clearly sexual, like a birth video, a breastfeeding request. He didn't walk in, right? She invited him in. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm just breastfeeding. It's not a big deal. She is immediate, by inviting him in, she's telling it's not a sexual thing. He did say at one point on the set, we'll never forget, that, it's a that look is really sexy. It says in the script, Lily arrives on set in sexy look. He's the director. He's allowed to say mission accomplished. Says sexy, you met it. The look is good. Yeah. And also, it's connected to discrimination because of sex under the legal standards for a hostile work environment. No. She kept trying to make it porny, right? Like a birthing video is not porn-like. He reviewed all the incidents individually and collectively, including comments, on-set conduct, discussions about intimacy scenes, alleged boundary issues, workplace tensions, but ultimately held that they did not legally rise to the level required for a successful harassment claim under Title VII and California Fair Employment Law. So importantly for Blake, she, at this point, she didn't go entirely nuclear on her legal team because Judge Liman also gave her a little carrot here, that a jury could believe Lively genuinely experienced the environment as harassing and that her belief was not utterly baseless. So that language was crucial because it supported her retaliation theory, right? Even though the harassment claims themselves were dismissed. And why were they dismissed? Well, first, he emphasized the two sides, this is crazy, never finalized the agreement. He said, quote, the parties agree that Lively never signed the ALA, Actors Loan-Out Agreement. And then he explained that the sexual harassment clause itself remained disputed. One of the contested provisions is the very one under which Lively now sues, paragraph 7, which prohibits sexual harassment and retaliation. Then he stated it directly why that mattered. The fact that the parties were not able to come to terms on such provision provides powerful evidence that no contract had yet been formed. They didn't sign anything. He also repeatedly stressed that It Ends With Us clearly reserved the right not to be bound to an agreement that wasn't signed. Duh. He said, it ends with us unambiguously expressed an intent not to be bound absent a fully executed and signed agreement. And this express reservation of rights absent a signed writing is compelling evidence that there was no mutual assent to the formation of a contract. This is like brutal for Blake. Then Blake's lawyers attempted to revise the harassment clause so that she could terminate the agreement if harassment occurred. They write, in the event artist is aware of any sexual harassment conducted by the company, the artist shall have the right to terminate this agreement. Well, Brian Friedman turns around with his lawyers and says, what? This is not acceptable. There can be no instances where there is a right to terminate the agreement or have a right of injunctive relief because, as Judge Liman agreed, there was never a signed agreement, ever. How did her lawyers miss this? At the same time, the judge quoted her counsel's statement that her experience had been deeply concerning on many levels, right? Okay, she did write a 17-point conditions for return to work manifesto, and the producers themselves responded to that because they wanted to finish their film. And so they said, yeah, we'll be ensuring a safe environment for all involved. And that's paramount to us, blah, blah, blah. Judge Lyman concluded that even assuming Blake Lively's factual allegations were true, the legal mechanisms that she sued under ultimately failed because the sexual harassment provisions in the loan-out agreement for Blake never became enforceable because, once again, no final signed contract existed, and because the parties were still actively disputing the harassment provisions themselves. Much of the alleged conduct did not legally satisfy the threshold for actionable harassment claims, and the stronger evidence supported retaliation claims rather than harassment. Another major reason he rejected the harassment counts was timing. The alleged PR and smear campaign, Blake talks about that. Well, the alleged smear occurred after filming, right? After he was stuck in the basement and the movie came out, and after the working relationship had effectively ended. So he ruled these acts can't legally create a hostile work environment because she was no longer working in that environment. So this leaves the three claims, retaliation and breach related. Sadly, Blake herself was not convinced at all of that, as we know, because she pushed her lawyers or the lawyers pushed her to settle. So she didn't even buy it. She's like, we got to get out of this. And now some say she should sue her lawyers for screwing all of this up. She paid like way above $50 million, reportedly. Well, she can't do that. She can't sue her legal team at this point because she would look crazy. Crazier. Clients, who sign a settlement agreement also at mediation, which they did right before the Met Gala, effectively waive the right to claim any misconduct by their attorneys because they can't claim their attorneys caused them to settle on less favorable terms if they go to mediation. So that would undermine the strength of her malpractice claim since the attorney's conduct and communications during the mediation are largely shielded from disclosure. So in practice, it would be nearly impossible to prove. So the conclusion to all of this is Blake is sitting on pins and needles right now as Judge Lyman is about to issue the ruling on the final straw. It's like the final straw to this long thing that started with a mountain of evidence and 15 claims and went down to, we'll never see any evidence because you settled, and 0 claims. So she's got one little thing having to do with her attorney's fees, there's no chance of all of her attorney's fees. There's no way that Lyman's going to say, okay, she's owed a full restitution of $70 million or whatever it is. But he might say $1 million. Here's $1 million, something to which she will declare a victory. And you will know very well that is not a victory. That is a total dilapidation. And she should be pissed 18 ways to Sunday. with her lawyers and every other person that she hired to stop her from doing this. Like, where's the agent? Where's the manager? Where's the husband that says, what are you doing? This is crazy and not worth it.